Hey guys, welcome to the Junto Podcast, episode 36. Keeping the train rolling. Excited to be here this week, and got the OG Junto Podcast queen on with me this week.
That means oh girl.
Oh
by
girl.
The way. Oh girl.
Who told you that?
I'm
oh
just
girl.
kidding.
Man, you ain't old.
I'm kidding.
You know why? Because if you're old, that means I'm old, and I know I ain't old, and I definitely know you ain't old. But rolling with the Junto Podcast queen, my lovely bride, Heather. And if you're new to the Junto Podcast, we try to just have a conversation each week about a topic that maybe you can relate to, just real life people doing real life things and doing the best we can, working our way through it. And if you've never stopped by, we generally have conversations about leadership and faith and real life. And sometimes I'm doing those things alone or with my lovely bride, or oftentimes it's with guests. But anyways, regardless, it's a pleasure to be with you today. And we thought we'd hop on this week and have a conversation real quick about maybe prioritizing our life. One of the things that we deal with, if you don't know us by now, is that we're parents of 4 daughters, ranges from 18 all the way down to 9 years old.
5.
5. Oh my goodness, 5. See?
We have 4, not 3.
5. Oh, did I say
4
3?
Kids. No, but anyway. That's funny. That's how busy we are. We forget how many kids we have in their ages.
Yeah, that's easy to do when you have as many kids as we do, and they all have obligations and life things of their own. And obviously, we have goals that we're working towards. And we thought this week that we would hopefully give you some encouragement, maybe some tips on how to prioritize. And these are things. Some of them that we do, but some of them that we're going to try. So what we bring to you today, hopefully will be an encouragement to you. And with that, let's jump right in, podcast queen Heather. Yeah.
No, we always talk. So we've been in discussion about our busyness and sometimes the overwhelming busyness of a season. And I feel like we live in that season. You know, we keep saying, oh, it'll slow down after this, or it'll slow down after this, but it doesn't really seem to slow down. So we're thinking, okay, what can we do? What are some practical ways that us as parents and employees and friends and all that fun stuff, what can we do to learn to say no to good things?
That's a good one.
Which is hard to do because it's good things. It's
good
easy
things.
to say no to something that you don't see as being valuable or a good use of your time. Those things are easy to say no to, but when there are multiple good things at the same time, sometimes it's hard to determine what to do and what not to do.
Yeah. And a lot of times when you're dealing with busyness, looking at this from a counseling or a psychological perspective, you hit on something good, because busyness is not that you're busy doing bad things. A lot of the things that we do are good things. Yeah. And it's not that we're just committing ourselves to things that aren't beneficial to us or that don't speak life into us. It's just that how much can the human body, the human mind,
how much can we take?
Relationships. That's a big one with
before
busyness.
Everything just...
And it will happen.
Yep.
Because it's happened with us.
We've had some mini explosions, I think, throughout our relationship.
Yeah, and this year, in fact, 2 months, we'll be celebrating. Is it how many years?
You better get this right, or you are in bad trouble, mister.
This is 20?
Duh. Yes.
20 years.
This is the big 2-0.
The big 2-0
of marriage.
Yeah. And that's why we're taking a nice trip in 2023. But
Lord willing.
Yes, Lord willing. Always Lord willing. And so what can we do? How, as parents and spouses, can we speak into each other's lives? Can we follow our dreams and our desires that God has put in our heart? Can we take a step of faith, maybe for a business or a venture or something? Maybe it's a dream that we've had our lives. How can we follow those things and see to the regular obligations and commitments in our lives without taking on too much or without hitting that breaking point? And hopefully we can learn how to determine and prioritize what really is the most important thing. And we got a couple of things that we thought were beneficial or could be beneficial that we found online, but I'm going to start out with something that's in my own heart or in my own spirit, or maybe something that I have a testimony of, and that's you have to learn how to let the first things be first. And what does that really mean? Well, honestly, you when you, I guess, are living life, you kind of have to prioritize the most important thing. And obviously for us, that's family through a perspective of faith. Ultimately, God is number one for us.
Right.
And we always kind of approach this podcast through a perspective of faith. But in that regard, you know what? If you can kind of start by figuring out what is the most important thing for your life, right?
Yep.
And then you can begin there and move from there.
Yeah, start at the top.
What you got for us?
Yeah, like I said, we are there. We wanted to talk about something that we feel is very relatable because it's where we're at right now. So I feel like, okay, well, there's got to be other folks who are dealing with the same thing. So let's do some practical things. How can we, us as well, prioritize better and learn when saying no is okay and when to say yes, because a lot of times you have these decisions to make, and it's the scales are like this, so it's not always easy to tell what to put your time to. But practically speaking, we wanted to talk about some things to help you prioritize life when everything is important. And right now, especially the way, our kids, I use them as an example because we live with them. Everything is important to them.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is
Absolutely.
Dramatic. But
Big time.
That's culture right now.
Yeah.
And we are living amongst, and so we're in it. And so even our family has its own culture.
Yeah.
So how to prioritize life when everything is important. So let me give a few things, and you can give some of them too. We can take turns.
Awesome.
Have a list. I like lists.
She's a lister.
Does anybody else make lists to go shopping anymore? Or
This
do you
girl's
just
a
go
lister.
willy-nilly and end up spending all kinds of money?
And
Stuff you don't need.
It's so funny because we're so much alike, but man, are we different.
We are really different.
I mean, we like a lot of the same things, but when it comes to how we operate and move and do, we're
Organize
so
ourselves.
different.
We're different.
I don't mind lists. I just, I tend to put my list up here, and maybe that's why I forget so much stuff.
Yeah. Well, when I put too much in here, some stuff falls out.
So
I'd put it on a piece of paper or in my phone so that I don't have to have it as much in here.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I got that. I stole it from Mom. She always said that.
No, it's true. I think it's really practical. It's one of the, let's think about it. Lists have always worked. And it's going to be one of those things that you can always use.
It's just a visual that you can reference. Does anybody reference anything anymore?
Yeah.
If
Google.
If it's not in here, how do you pull it out of? It's got to be in something to pull it out of. Does that make sense? I don't even know where I'm going with that. But have a list of some sort, whether you like to write or type or use, I don't know, what are those things called at school that you use?
Steno pad? No, I'm just kidding.
No, the kids these days, in math, they use these, they represent numbers. I can't think of the word.
Don't get me to lie.
Anyway, however you need to make a list, and if you can make them in a list and you have a brain like Jeremy Soto and can keep those lists,
then
do them in a list, whatever. So make that list. Determine what those good things are or those things that have to be done.
That's right.
Those important things. And identify, step number 2, identify what's important and understanding your true goals.
Come on, man. All right.
Okay. What is the old adage? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And that is correct.
That's life.
Yeah.
We could all just go around waking up every morning and, all right, what are we going to do today? Well, I would get nothing done.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, but we need goals in life.
Yeah, you got to have goals, and I love that, having a list and then obviously understanding what your goals are. And that's actually something we've been doing. hopefully you've had an opportunity to stop by before, but we're involved in ministry work, and then I'm also do some teaching at a local college here, ASU Mid-South, Arkansas State University, and have an awesome job and work that I do there. But it's hard. You said, understanding what's important and learning how to prioritize, and that can be a challenge. So understanding that, talking about it, I would say communicating. If you're in a relationship, have these conversations with your significant other, because all of this that we're talking about, it's not so much about just getting your life in order, but it's really about relationship. It's about being relational, because especially if you're married, you have to be intentional about how you're spending your time. There are needs that have to be met, personal needs, but there are also needs that I have to meet with my spouse and vice versa, and the kids.
Yes.
And it goes back to what you said, because this is actually something I teach in college in one of the courses that we teach about college success, and it's culture. And I think that's important. Understanding the culture of your home, your job, how things operate, how it's different and unique from other types of culture. So I think that's a big thing. It might not be something that you can put on a list, but it's something that you can be introspective about and say, okay, what can I do to set myself up for success in all that I have going on?
Yeah. Because it's a lot. It can be overwhelming at times.
For sure.
Not only for families, single folks as well. Anybody who wants to eat has to have a job.
Yeah.
So with work relationships, church relationships, friends, of course, family, sports, extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
It's so many different communities in your life.
That's a lot.
I feel like that we're a part of, like for us, for instance, we have a huge family, wonderful church family. He has work family. I work at the church, so that's another separate part to me from just regular church family. There's staff family and other obligations. My sister started a nonprofit for my nephew, and so I'm on the board for that. Just different types of community and relationships, and juggling all that.
They all require our time and attention.
And they're all great things.
All great things.
Great things. So it's not like you can go, oh, no, that's no good.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. Nope, cross it off.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff. So how do you balance and achieve, what's the word, like for it to be rewarding to you?
Yeah.
And not just, oh, I'm doing all these things, but are you enjoying, are you motivated by them, or is it a struggle? Is it something that leaves a negative little sting when you think about it, but it's something you got to do?
Yeah, that's really good because all of those things, as you mentioned, they're great things.
Right.
They're things that do bring joy and fulfillment. So how do we prioritize that,
Yes.
right? How do we work around all that? And that brings me to our third point here, which is to highlight what's urgent, right? So highlight what's urgent.
Let's define urgent. That's important.
I'll let you define it.
Oh, okay. You hit me with it.
Yeah.
Urgent.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Urgent. What's that song?
Urgent.
It's called Urgent.
Yeah.
Can we
Foreigner.
play that right now and get the definition?
Exactly.
To me, something that's urgent has to be prioritized right now. It's not something that's going to be a long term, like I have a little bit of time to meditate and figure this out. No, we got to work on this right now. So something that, kids' schoolwork, I don't know that it's, but it's timely. There's a time frame.
That's what I was going to say. Something that has a deadline, or
Right.
something that has a specified end date, or something.
Got to have.
You got to be done, or maybe it's some sort of emergency. You think, oh my gosh, this is urgent. I got to get this done. Something happens, or a disaster in the home. All of those things could be defined as something that's urgent. So that's a good starting point. If you're overwhelmed, if you're dealing with, anxiety because you have all this stuff going on, start and define what's urgent.
Yes.
See what has to be done. What doesn't have to be done today? What can you
Immediately,
put
yes.
off till tomorrow to give your mind, body and spirit some rest?
I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel paralyzed because I'm trying to decide what to work on or what's
the
most
time.
important right now, because okay, there are a couple of things looming and they both have a date that's coming up, so which one do I start, what do I work on right now?
That's right.
Yeah, we can't answer that question for you, but if you ask the right questions, I think you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and it's going to look a little bit different for everybody.
Right.
That's the thing about life. There are universal principles and things that we can discuss, but
Yeah.
your culture, your family is going to operate a little bit different. But the principles you can apply. So find out what's urgent, find out what's pressing, find out what has to be done, and then this says here that to avoid competing priorities. Break that down for us. What does that mean? Do you avoid those competing priorities?
I kind of hit on that a minute ago. Like, there are two tasks right now, so to speak, that have deadlines. How do you, it would be great if one was all I could focus on right now and then the other a little bit down the road.
Right.
But sometimes life doesn't allow you to not have competing priorities.
Yeah.
That's
hard. It's a goal, I think, that we can set to avoid those competing priorities.
In those moments when we may have a choice.
Boom.
Early on.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yep.
Be realistic, I guess, with like, okay, am I going to be able to juggle this and that at the same time? Or do I have the option to maybe delay one so that I can be a little bit more successful with it?
And I like that. See, a lot of times we make decisions emotionally. We make them based on emotion, how we're feeling, and we don't ask ourselves those questions.
I got to do this right now. It's got to be done.
Yeah, we don't think about, well, am I going to be able to take on this load? Should I sign both girls up for volleyball right now? Can I handle both of their games and both of their practices? Or the list goes on and on. But that's a very good point. Is don't make those decisions emotionally. Avoid the competing priorities and then really audit it. Think about it and ask yourself what is the best option here.
Right.
So
to not set yourself up for failure.
Boom.
I mean, really, if we can try and avoid unnecessary stress, even when they are good things, Yeah,
and just being busy just for the sake of being busy. In other words, I always go back because I got kids, but I don't want to sign my kid up just for if they're going to be not good at it. If they're going to be late all the time, if they're going to be rushing in, we're going to have to be missing a lot of games because we just didn't plan and we got other stuff coming. To me, that's a bad reflection on me. So a lot of times your intention is good. You mean well,
right?
But then you just didn't think the process through. So you got all these obligations, you got all this stuff, and then you're really teaching your child in the process that, hey, it's okay to be late to things. It's okay to miss your games. And so, just think about it from that perspective. That's something that just came to mind, as we're discussing this. So
yeah, definitely. I like that. And that kind of went on to our next step of considering effort. How much effort are you going to be able to put towards?
That's it.
You may be motivated at first, but what is the longevity of that effort?
Ooh.
Just being realistic and really not making decisions or big moves without really thinking about it first.
That's right.
That's
exactly
right. And then lastly, review constantly, which
Always.
is good.
Always.
And be realistic, monitor and adjust.
Monitor and adjust.
When I was going through my getting my teaching degree, it's a constant monitoring and adjusting. And isn't that life? I think
it is. It is.
Like
you monitor it.
Something isn't working.
You adjust.
You got to adjust it a little bit.
And sometimes life will adjust it on your behalf.
This is true. You'll get some adjustments otherwise.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, quick things just to kind of talk about. Hopefully that got at least a conversation going or put a thought in your mind about how you might be able to make this personal to you, that you can look at your life and ask, do I have too much on my plate right now? This isn't an end-all, be-all. Obviously, you have to continue to have conversations, and you have to learn how to...
Right. Life is maintenance.
That's it. It's maintenance, and you learn as you go. And, if you're struggling right now, like we are, like most Americans are, like most of the world is, don't beat yourself up, right? have some grace, but try each day to be better than the day you were before. And the kicker and the key, in my view, is not to give up, to keep going, to be intentional about how you're spending your time, to make sure you're feeding your soul, your mind, and your body. Mind, body, and spirit. Yep. And I believe if you're well-intentioned and intentional in actually putting those things into practice, hey, listen, I think you're going to be better off in the long run anyway. So
yeah, true. I agree with that. Do we want to talk about, real quick, just a few questions that you can ask?
Absolutely.
Really practical
questions.
Things that anyone can ask. They're pretty general, that will help you define your priorities. Is this in alignment with my values?
I like that.
Good question. What is the likely outcome of making this thing a priority?
Wow.
What am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
What is so-and-so going to get out of this? My children?
Well, and how much am I going to have to put into it?
Yes.
What is this going to require of me? Can I do this? Is this something that I can actually accomplish in my life? A lot of those things.
Yeah. And lastly, will it help me grow? Isn't that life what we're supposed to be about?
Yeah, growth.
Growing, progressing, getting better.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what we strive to do at the Junto Podcast here, and that's our motto, that life is better when we do it together. We appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 36 of the Junto Podcast. And if there's just one thing that encouraged you today, or that you got out of this, surely there's one, then that means what we did was a success. So be sure and follow us at juntopodcast.com. Stop by the website, check out all that we got going here. We now have merch, so you can shop the Junto Podcast store, pick yourself up a camo hat, and we'll be releasing some new podcast humor shirts, funny things, and obviously we'll be putting some of our spiritual things up as well, because we know Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So we'll be putting some things up. But juntopodcast.com. Please stop by, see us, and we'll see you next time on episode 37 of the Junto Podcast.
37, Junto Podcast.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.